The badge gets you through the door, but not to the keyboard. In a fluorescent room off DC traffic, you learn to talk in acronyms and write in sentences that can survive court. Phones ring, printers spit out sanitized pages. And every mistake has a file number. This is your life, level by level, inside the Secret Service's cyber orbit. Level 1: The Clearance Rookie, ECTF Liaison Desk. You're not allowed to touch the wire, just read what it says. You sit at the liaison desk with a visitor badge lanyard that never stops rubbing your neck. The Electronic Crimes Task Force briefings feel like a trade show for bad news bank fraud reps, local detectives, a few suits from a telecom, all sliding indicators across a table like poker chips. IPs, domains, skimmer photos, a USB drive labeled in Sharpie. You type tickets, you log calls, you write sanitized summaries that sound calm even when the room doesn't. The first rule isn't catching anyone. It's not contaminating evidence. You learn what can be said in a memo and what can only be hinted at in a hallway. You tell yourself you're just organizing. You tell yourself your words keep cases alive. You tell yourself it's temporary, just until you're cleared for more. Dinners get interrupted by a quick server check you can't explain. Friends stop asking. You start living in two languages: what you suspect and what you can prove, and the gap between them becomes your whole job. At this level, you don't touch the wire. You just learn how it can cut you. Level 2: The Forensics Apprentice, NCFI-style training. Every click is either proof or a felony. Hoover, Alabama feels like an odd place to become dangerous, but the classroom smells like fresh drywall and hot electronics. Imaging stations line the room. Right blockers click into place like seatbelts. Instructors drill chain of custody until you can recite it half asleep. Evidence bag number, date, time, handler, seal intact. You image drives. You hash verify. You print the logs and initial every line in blue ink. The work is physical. Gloves, labels, tamper tape, a Pelican case packed with cables you can identify by touch. You learn how one sloppy timestamp can bury a case, how one unlogged reboot can turn certainty into noise. You tell yourself you're only preserving facts. You tell yourself the machine doesn't care about feelings. You tell yourself the person behind the device chose this. Then the artifacts start looking like lives. Browser history as a routine. Chat logs as a relationship. Deleted photos as a secret. The more precise your notes get, the less human the evidence feels, until people become folders and your empathy becomes just another file you don't open. Level 3: The Cyber Investigative Section Operator, HQ, 2004 era. The unit was built for criminals, now it's pointed at threats. Headquarters has its own weather overcooled hallways, constant badge taps, the hush of rooms with no windows. You get read into the Cyber Investigative Section, built in 2004 to go after major cybercrime actors, and the tempo changes immediately. Your calendar fills with coordination calls, prosecutors who want clean evidence, partners who want credit, other agencies who want you to move faster and talk less. You live inside logs and legal process. Preservation letters, subpoenas, search warrant returns with timestamps that have to line up like train schedules. Collection that must survive discovery, even when leadership asks for quiet. You tell yourself speed is protection. You tell yourself precision is safety. You tell yourself the friction is just DC doing DC, and then you learn the three truths. Everyone leaks, everyone logs, everyone denies. The surveillance isn't only on suspects. It's on you, your access, your queries, your late-night badge swipes. The job starts as hunting ghosts online, and turns into watching your own footprints in wet cement. You've learned to document, to image, to coordinate. Now they start moving you toward protection, where an email can reroute a motorcade, and proof arrives after the damage is already scheduled. Level 4: The Protective Tech Ghost, Advanced Teams and No-Fail Days. You're embedded with protection, fixing problems before anyone can admit they exist. The hotel ballroom is still empty when you arrive, chairs stacked like ribs against the wall. You walk the route with a laminated schedule in one hand and a portable spectrum analyzer in the other. Someone points at a closet. Comms rack goes there. You trace Ethernet drops, confirm VLAN tags, check the UPS load, and mark every cable with heat shrink labels that match your diagram. You live out of a Pelican case. Spare radios, SIMs, a throw phone, a laptop that only touches what it's allowed to touch. You stand behind drape lines and pretend you're stage crew. You listen to the advance lead callout times, wheels up 1430, site secure 1505, and you quietly make sure the numbers can be true. Your burden is timing. If a phishing email hits a local vendor the night before, you still have to make the venue work by morning without turning it into a headline. You tell yourself you're just hardening surfaces. You tell yourself you're preventing embarrassment. You tell yourself silence is part of the protection mission. You don't get applause for a clean event. You get a hallway nod and the knowledge that the loudest thread is the one you made boring. Level 5: the interagency black tool handler, Einstein alerts and quiet fixes. You don't chase criminals, you intercept signals and decide which alarms deserve oxygen. The first thing you see is the alert queue, scrolling like a slot machine that never pays out. Einstein hits. DNS anomalies. A signature match against a government IP block. You sit in a secure room where phones are discouraged and windows don't exist, and you learn which acronyms actually answer their emails. US CERT. CISA watch. A CIO's deputy with a private line. A fusion center analyst who wants context in 10 minutes. Your day is triaged by artifact. PCAP snippets. NetFlow summaries. A PowerShell line that looks like nothing until you notice the spacing. You draft a bulletin that can be forwarded without spilling sources. You call an agency society and talk them through isolating one host, just one, because broad containment will break payroll. The power here is quiet access. You can ask for logs other people can't. You can suggest a patch window that suddenly becomes non-negotiable. You tell yourself you're only reducing risk. You tell yourself the tool is neutral. You tell yourself the only mistake is delay. At this level, you don't pull the fire alarm. You decide which smoke gets to be seen. Level 6: the cyber gatekeeper, SSA, RAC level quiet authority. You're the last signature before operations happen and the first call when they go sideways. Your badge opens doors with fewer questions now, and that's the part that makes you careful. You sit at the head of a small table where people bring you requests wrapped in polite language. Access approvals, emergency authorities, expedited, monitoring, a travel team that needs a secure kit by dawn. Your inbox is a map of stress red exclamation marks, calendar holds titled only, sync, numbers you recognize by area code. You run the rhythm, weekly case reviews with prosecutors. After action reports from protection. A checklist that includes the unglamorous, audit logs, least privilege reviews, key rotation dates, who still has admin after a transfer. You do the boring parts because the boring parts are what survive an inspector general question. The burden is deciding what reality becomes official. You can greenlight a tool, or you can say no and own the fallout when something gets missed. You tell yourself you're defending the mission. You tell yourself restraint is strength. You tell yourself authority is just accountability with nicer stationery. You're not the keyboard anymore. You're the lock, and every lock eventually learns what it's protecting. Rank doesn't erase the feeling of being watched. It just changes the direction. You start by proving facts, then you learn to manage time, then you learn to manage silence. The cables get neater. The memos get shorter. The consequences get heavier. Somewhere in the hum of racks and badge readers, you realize the real perimeter isn't a building, it's the part of you that stays disciplined when nobody is looking.